Today we're talking about a small indie company. You may have heard about them before, Cloudflare. They're very, very small. They're only being used on like 20.5% of websites. They're used for a lot of different things, from hosting to file management to CDNs to, most importantly, DDoS protection. Using Cloudflare to prevent your services from being hit with DDoS is incredibly common. There's a good chance you're buying your domains through them. There's a good chance you're using the CDN for other things too. Cloudflare has taken over the web, and the vast majority of heavy traffic, heavy value services are using Cloudflare somewhere in their stack. At the very least, they're using it as that DDoS layer. Cloudflare is a very, very popular solution to a lot of problems we run into as web devs, which is why Spain's recent decision to fully block Cloudflare's IP addresses whenever there is a football game going on is within the most insane things I've ever heard a government do. This is like the textbook example of why you shouldn't let government people make policies about specific technical implementations. Because it's not just Cloudflare, by the way. Cloudflare's biggest shit talker by far is Guillermo, the CEO of Vercel, and they're being hit the exact same way. It's pretty absurd. Pretty absurd is generous. This is one of the stupidest things I've seen in a very, very long time. The Spanish government should be ashamed. The people should be rioting. And we have to talk all about this. If I'm going to lose all of my customers from Spain, we need to make up for the money somehow. So we're going to do a quick word from today's sponsor and then dive right in. Today's sponsor is one of those rare companies that I've been building on for over 5 years. Agora makes the best video infra in the world, and I mean it. Whenever I'm trying to transmit video and audio live over the web, Agora is almost certainly going to be part of my stack. We built all of Ping on top of them. But I want to show something cool they just built on top of their infra, a conversational AI engine. I've never seen anything quite like it. An SDK and API for having live conversations with AI. And because their infra is so good, the latency just feels impossible. This is going to be a live demo because I want you all to see just how fast it can respond to things.
Hello. Is there something specific you want to talk about? Or should we just have a chat?
Who's the best programming YouTuber?
There are many great programming YouTubers, but Colt Steel, Traversing Media, and the Coding Train.
Wait, I want TypeScript YouTubers.
For TypeScript, you might want to check out Academind.
Okay, thank you. I get it. Did you see how fast that was, though? It responded almost immediately after I stopped talking, and I could interrupt it without having to set anything up. It's like 5 lines of code to get started. It's surprisingly cheap to run, and you can plug in whatever models you want. If you're trying to add voice to your AI apps, this is almost certainly what you want to use. I know it's what we're looking at for T3 Chat. Thank you to Agora for sponsoring today's video. Check out today at soydev.link/Agora. Let's dive into how Spain is fundamentally breaking the internet. There's a couple pieces we need to talk about here. There's the IP law and piracy side. There's another type of IP, though. IP addresses that we'll have to talk about, too, as well as DDoS protection and identification. This is the general 3 pieces we're going to have to talk about. Let's start with IP addresses. If you're not familiar, there's an IP address. It's 4 numbers that describe an address something can go to, kind of like a phone number. This phone number is assigned to a person or a device, and when someone types in this number and calls it, telephone networks will use this number to figure out where to route the call and connect you. IP addresses are similar. This is an IPv4 address specifically. There's a problem with IPv4 addresses, though. There aren't that many of them. I know you're looking at that number and you're like, what do you mean there aren't that many of them? That's like 1 for every 2 people on Earth. Yeah. That's actually not that much, because any one person could have multiple things that need different IP addresses. And more importantly, a lot of these are reserved for certain things like privacy, like local usage, etc. IP addresses are sold in blocks, which are chunks of address space that can be used for different things. And most of those chunks are taken. We are actually in the middle of an IP crisis. We are out of IPv4 addresses. This is bad. I don't know about you guys, but I have a lot of websites. This is hilarious. Here is just a taste of a bunch of the domains that I currently have set up on one of my Vercel accounts. I have a lot of domains. If each of these was its own IP address, that would not be viable because I, as one person, have a ton of domains. It's very surprisingly easy to use up a lot of them. So if every company, every dev, every subdomain, everything was to have too many of these IP addresses, you can see how quickly we run out, which is why it is basically essential for businesses to reuse IPs. So if you were to go through the domains that I had there and pick any handful of them, there's a good chance that markerthing.com and unduck.link both resolve to the same IP address. Let's just check it. DNS check. Unduck resolves to this IP address. And if we go back here and grab markerthing, previous IP address 663360, 663360. Crazy. The reason for that is the domain is mapping to this one IP address that is Vercel's, as we see here as well, the Vercel DNS. Once that DNS has been hit, it can look at the domain name you're requesting and forward you to the right place. This is essential to how the internet works today, because if every single domain had its own dedicated IP address, we would have been out a very, very, very long time ago, because every computer effectively needs its own IP address. Every computer in your house, every computer at AWS, every computer that Facebook is using to host their servers, every phone in your pocket, everything needs an IP address in order to send things to and from it. So if we are out of them, we are screwed. And that is why we have IPv6. IPv6, there's a lot more of. Yeah. My face is cutting off the answer because it's such a big number. 2 to the power of 128. There are significantly more IPv6 addresses. Show one. They look like this. IPv6 is awesome because we won't run out of them, like ever. It's basically theoretically impossible to. The problem is that most things don't support it. Things like your ISP, which is your internet service provider, they don't support IPv6 probably, which means if you have a domain that resolves to an IPv6 address, it will choke up and fail. As such, most websites, I would go as far as say pretty much all websites, are still expected to run IPv4 for their hosting. This is the problem. So how do we handle this with a service like Cloudflare or Vercel? Every time I make a build on a service, whenever I push code up to GitHub, an environment is created. And that needs to have an IP address for you to get to it. So if every time I did that for every project, I created an IP address, I personally have published tens of thousands of instances that theoretically would need their own IP. That is not viable with IPv4. So what all of these services do is they have a pool of IP addresses that aren't shared amongst a customer, they're shared amongst customers. So when I register on Cloudflare and you register on Cloudflare, we both are getting the same IP addresses. The reason that this is important, the reason Cloudflare is in front, is because they're going to protect you from things like a DDoS attack. You might have seen this screen at some point in your life, checking your browser before accessing. This is a thing you can set up with Cloudflare to check the user before they go in. So if your site's suddenly getting way too much traffic and you think you might be getting DDoSed, they will add a check step in front where a different page is loaded, checks to make sure you're a real user by running certain JavaScript and other characteristics that are really hard to emulate with a bot to see if you're a real user. And if you are, then it lets you through. This is essential if your services are getting spammed and attacked. One of the best products for this. Vercel is starting to catch up with theirs, but those are the two best options by far for protecting your services from getting denial of service attacks via massive distributions of spam. Very, very common. And this is the thing, I would guess half or more of the websites I go to are using either them or Vercel to solve this problem. I know we rely on them heavily to keep T3Chat from getting spammed to all hell and back. It's essential for the success of our services. But that means we're all relying on Cloudflare, and more importantly, our URLs point to one of Cloudflare's IP addresses. Cloudflare has a large bucket of people using it. And we're actually going to pull up an old rant. There's a decent chance you guys have seen this rant already, because we go to my channel and we sort by most popular. It almost got 1 million plays. The problem that this video is discussing is a random company, Brand Shield, got itch.io taken down because they went to the DNS provider and said, hey, you have this game on your service that is breaking the law, take it down. So I'm going to grab this diagram because we're going to reuse it because things get a little more absurd. Let's pretend the people who were sharing the piracy streams were doing it on Twitch. We'll pretend Twitch uses Cloudflare. They don't. They use AWS. We'll pretend. DDoS protection. We'll also have DNS, which is also Cloudflare. Registrar, which is also Cloudflare. We're going to add some layers here. I'm going to delete all these parts. Let's say we have this rough stack. You're a viewer going to watch something on a stream. Maybe like I am now on Twitch. You go to watch a stream. That means a person is streaming the video. Twitch is hosting the service where the streaming is happening and the viewer is going to consume it. Cloudflare has the DDoS protection layer in front of it. They also probably are providing server, stuff like that. They also, below that, have the DNS, which is what turns the URL into an IP address to then let the user access the service. And then there's the registrar, which is what turns that name into an actual thing that is registered with these internet companies so that you can have that URL and have that name turn into the right IP address. All of these layers are necessary for a service. So let's say the person here is breaking the law. We'll pretend that the streamer in the middle here is streaming copywritten content. Totally never happened before, right? I say as somebody who built a lot of the tech on the safety side of Twitch that had to deal with this. Yeah. So we have a streamer that is streaming video that they should not be streaming. We'll even use the example here, which is they're streaming a soccer game live that is a pay-per-view event. So they paid for it, they're capturing their screen, and they're resharing it so people could watch it for free. It's totally understandable that a lawyer for that company would try to get that stream taken down because it is breaking the law. This is somebody breaking the law. I'm not going to sit here and pretend that what they're doing is okay. It is not. The problem is addressing it at this level is not necessarily easy to do. So if I am the lawyer for Big Soccer, the lawyer for Big Soccer could do their best to go after and sue the person here, the one streaming the video. But chances are by the time they actually get to them, the game's going to be done, and they're even less likely to be able to identify this person. And if Twitch wasn't doing enough to help Big Soccer ban things here, they would go a layer down. They would go to Twitch. They would contact Twitch and say, hey, your service is being used to break the law. You're not doing a good enough job taking down these illegal streams. We will take legal action against you if you don't put more effort in. And if you either fail at this step because Twitch ignores you or you're incompetent, you can go a layer lower and say, hey, Cloudflare, there is piracy going on with people using Cloudflare. This Twitch site's being used exclusively for streaming illegal things. You need to take them down. And if Cloudflare doesn't do their due diligence, they might take down a customer, even if it's a very, very small percentage of their traffic is being used for illegal things. What happened in Spain isn't even that level of irrational. It goes further. There are ISPs, which are internet service providers. We'll say you're on, I don't know, Comcast, everyone's favorite. That's an internet service provider. When you use the internet, there is a company that is turning the thing you're doing on your device into a network connection, going to the server and bringing back that data to you. If they were to go after the ISPs, I would say they're being incredibly incompetent. That's not a thing you should do. You shouldn't be going after ISPs because of users on the ISP doing things. Nonsense. But they didn't stop there. They went even further. They went down to the government level. They petitioned for the government to instantiate a hard ban of any IP addresses they identify as providing pirated content. But if we go back up to where we started, you might remember a problem. These IP addresses are being reused. So if Cloudflare isn't just providing for Twitch, but it's providing for 15 other things, closer to like 15 million other things, and one of them is identified to be used for piracy, they don't contact the service owner, they don't contact Cloudflare, they don't even contact the ISP anymore. They went to the government and said, hey, anytime we identify one of these things as violating this law, it has to be banned all the way up the chain. So now, whenever Big Soccer reports an IP address, every ISP, every provider in Spain is legally required to block that IP address. Actual fucking insanity. It's a judicial response to the demands of La Liga under IP law. Okay, so the judge is coming in. So it's not like the government instantiated a policy for this. It's more that the judge of the case said that all ISPs are required to follow these demands. It's also convenient that the people who own the sports channels also happen to be the most popular ISP in Spain. A very bad precedent that has been set here. And since the company that runs this internet layer, since I think it's La Liga, right? The company that runs the internet for most of Spain also is part of Big Soccer. And they want to make sure they can sell their subscriptions to watch those games. Or sorry, Telefonica. Thank you guys. Because this party and this party are the same party, they can basically get away with whatever they want. And they have done that. They've went to the government and gotten permission to blanket ban and also expectation that other ISPs will do the same. And the result is that a significant portion of the internet goes down in Spain whenever there is a soccer game. That is hilarious and terrifying. This means that when there is a soccer game going on in Spain, users can't use my chat app, T3 Chat, because we're built on Vercel and their IPs are getting banned. It means that you can't use government services. If you're trying to file for immigration or renew your passport or something, or check your flights because you're leaving Spain, and a soccer game happens to be going on, there's a very good chance you can't check your airline's website or app because it's being blocked. That's insane. This is actually unreal. This is absurdity. I've never seen something go this low in this chart. Like, my most popular video is me explaining that going down one layer below the service owner was too much. Going down to the courts to mandate ISPs enforce blocks of things that are entirely unrelated is so genuinely fucking insane that I didn't believe it when I first heard it. But now that I have like two companies that are like mortal rivals, Cloudflare and Vercel hate each other. They are on the same side of this one, which shows the severity of how stupid and bad this is. This is what happens when you let interest groups explain to government how a thing works rather than the people. But since the people who explain to the government how ISPs work and what the role of the internet is and how piracy is all happening, since this company was the one to explain to this group, the judge in this case, how this all worked, the judge got a biased view of how the internet works, and now they can delete everything above their line. So what are my takeaways here? First one, obviously, we need IPv6 immediately. So many of these problems would be reduced if services didn't have to reuse their IP addresses. You would have a much easier way to go up the chain and not screw over 20+% of the internet if every website had an actual IP address dedicated to it. That would be the first step. The second step, we need government employees who get this stuff. If a judge is ruling on a case about how the internet works, the judge should know how the fucking internet works. There is a problem in the US right now where there's a particular court in Texas in the middle of nowhere that is so bad about understanding technology that patent trolls camp there and file bullshit lawsuits because they can trick the judges into going in their favor. It's absurdity. These things need to be like government level fought against constantly. And most importantly, we need the Spanish people to speak up. People in Spain should be outraged right now. They should be rioting in the fucking streets over this, that the internet is being censored because Big Soccer is mad that they're making slightly less money. And in the interim, for now, please use a VPN. I hate this. I really hate that the solution right now is that you have to use a VPN. But like, if you're in Spain, do not let Telefonica see a thing that you're doing on the fucking internet. This company is terrible, corrupt, evil, and should be treated as such. Operate as though this company wants to ruin your life because they are not acting in your interest at all. Do not let them see a thing about what you do. Fuck Telefonica. Fuck whatever judge thought this was an okay thing to do without checking with actually intelligent people about what the fuck he was doing. I would be less harsh on the judge if they didn't ignore and dismiss the appeal filed by Cloudflare about how bullshit this was. Cloudflare tried to come in and explain why this is stupid, and the judge dismissed it fully. Fuck that. Fuck them. In the words of RootedCon, which is a group fighting for the rights of privacy of people on the internet, the judge has surprisingly dismissed our request in Cloudflare's, allowing La Liga to continue blocking at will websites and IP addresses that have no connection to piracy whatsoever. RootedCon remains firmly committed to defending citizens, and we will pursue all necessary legal means. We don't understand the judge's decision, as we assumed he hadn't been provided with all the information necessary to issue a ruling. Unfortunately, his role has now become clear. If this was just the judge being misinformed, that's one thing. Now the judge has been given the information, and he is continuing to be an asshole. If it looks like a duck and it quacks like a duck, it's probably bad for the people. It's insane. I cannot believe this went this far. So yeah, fuck that judge. Spain, start rioting. Soccer is certainly not worth giving up half the internet for. This is pathetic. Yell at your government. Get that judge fucking fired because they're certainly in cahoots with Telefonica, or they're just bad at their job. It's one or the other. I'll let them sue them and figure it out. But that judge is either corrupt or stupid. In either case, they should not be a fucking judge. I haven't been this mad at something in a minute, so I'm going to move on. Just fuck all of this. Have good DMCA law. Content that is illegal should be informed at the point of hosting, not at the point of IP address. 5 layers down the goddamn chain. Insanity. To anybody watching in Spain, I hope you could get to the video fine and that there wasn't a soccer game going on. And to everybody else, don't let your governments do this stuff. It's really hard to walk back once it starts. Until next time, keep the internet free.